So let me welcome you. So glad you're here. And we'll warm up a little bit first. So stand with the feet about hip distance, and we'll start the warm up just in general, turning our shoulders. You know, the arms just hang, and we turn our shoulders. And at first, the arms may not move much, but I can turn my shoulders more and let my arms hang limp, and they will respond to the fact that I stopped moving. That's what brings them across me. And then I just start to create a back and forthness of that. And you can do it to an extreme and really stop abruptly. And that has a certain appeal, but other times it might make things a little more agitated. So you just control the action to what seems to be the best amount of movement. Notice any areas that seem to be overly sensitive. And when we've done that a little bit, we're going to take the arms up and down. We're going to have this movement here, which creates a different plane of action, affects the capsule joint of the shoulder a little differently, relieves tension that could be building up in our neck. And then we soften those knees. We rock our weight backward until we lose our balance. We rock our weight forward with the knees bent until we lose our balance, because it's likely that we will at some point in our class have a loss of balance, and we want our brain and body to be up with it, ready to, be okay. One foot goes forward and a little crouch, and back and a little crouch. So I'm creating these actions. And then we'll do that on the other side. Just getting these actions. Great. Okay. Then standing there, and take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, push your palms firmly together. As you press, take those arms slowly up. Keep the pressure, keep the pressure, keep the pressure. And then inhale. And we do it again. Nice firm. Take it from one side to the other. The firm pressure goes from one arm to the other arm as intensity changes. Inhale. And we do it again. And then we take it across the other way. Feel the chest muscles. And again. Now, pull the shoulders back. Clasp the hands together. Reach backward. Squeeze shoulder blades back. Exhaling, and then shoulders go forward and inhale. And then reach and squeeze back. We exhale. And then the forward shoulders, inhale. Again, that reach, that squeeze back. And we just release that. And we stand, and our feet are a little wider. And here's a good chance to push out the feet and knees, but keep that weight balanced across the ball of the foot. This is going to engage the outer hip. We're going to pull in through our core. Chest stays lifted up, the shoulders come down. We push our hand into one side, so our tilt means shoulders and hips line up. Don't go any deeper into this than you want. Lift your ribs, lift your arm up in a stretch. Take a deep breath. And then exhaling, lift yourself up and out. And then pressing out again. Core engaged, chest up, shoulders down. Push and leg, make the tilt, shoulders lining up with the hips. Go comfortably down, ribs and arms stretching up. Inhale. And then exhale, reach yourself up and out. Make a wide stance. Keep that arch of the foot. Bend your knees, hands to the knees. Stretch across the body, breathing deeply. And coming back to center, stretch across the other way, deep breath. Good. Recenter and go to the first side again, stretch. And release, second side again and stretch. And release. Now shift your weight over to one side, let the other leg go straight. You can stay up high, you can go down lower. Our goal is to stretch a little bit on that inner thigh, just wake it up a little bit. And we'll go over. So we're not spending a long period of time in these stretches, because our idea is not to really lengthen, just to take some of the tension out. Ooh, there's a good protection when muscles are not overly long. We don't want to rob ourselves of that protective ability of our muscles. We just want to make sure there's not such a shortness that we can't move. Now, coming back to center, the elbows on the knees, I'm pressing my chest forward so my low back sways toward the navel. I'm lifting my hips up, straightening my knees a little until there's a stretch at the back of the leg. I can even let my head hang down, rock it side to side. Take a deep breath, and then we're just going to bend our knees and come up from that. We're going to move into squats. Now, a squat is with the feet a little wide. So hip distance wide is a little too narrow for a squat. Shoulder distance wide is better. The weight's on the heels, and we were talking this morning, the weight is also staying even from the big to little toe of the ball of the foot, but you do sort of push the heels out a little bit. And with the weight on those heels, you can use your arms forward as you bend and keep those knees separated. Don't let them crowd inward and come back up and down. And don't let the chest just tilt willfully forward. Think of the chest, the collarbones, the center of the chest, sort of pointing a little bit more upward as you come into it. And you can keep the arms forward, or if you wanted a little more challenge, you could cross the arms, and you'd find that keeping that weight back on the heels is now a little tougher because the arms aren't counterbalancing you. And if we emphasize back extension with even the arms uplifted, we'll find that, well, this complicates the squat even more. So it is not the depth of the squat that truly makes this important to us. It is that we're just controlling the body. We're giving a bit of stress, if you would, very appropriate. Now, my intention is to get the back of my legs. The first action is going to be hamstring involved, back of leg involved, both glute, hamstring, and even the calf. And if you want it to be very simple, you can go into a good morning. And sometimes the best thing to do is the first round, don't do too much. Now, in a good morning, I'm keeping the feet now definitely wider than shoulders, heels pushed outward. Hips go backward when I'm coming down. That's going to be important in all the techniques we use. We come to a gentle stretch, heels pushed outward. We push the pelvis forward, and at no point am I altering the curvature of my back. It's staying neutral. So I'm not crunching the front. I'm not overarching the back. That's a good morning. Now, if I wanted to do, let's bring in a chair over to act as a helpful support. There's the other thing that we're focusing on today, which is a single leg deadlift. And so the side that I'm standing on, I'm not going to hold the weight for this first round. I'm going to be reaching that arm down the other side. That leg's going to be coming backward, but I push the hip backward, just like in the good morning, tilting down back, staying neutral. And then I push the hip forward, just like in a good morning. And this other leg is just along for the ride. It doesn't have any particular role to play in this. So that, you do a one leg, that's like a one leg good morning. Okay, one leg good morning, or the dual leg good morning. We're trying for about 10 repetitions. So I'm going to switch sides. You'll switch sides as would be appropriate. And you don't have to hold the chair. In fact, both arms can be brought in a downward position and back up again so that the chest encouraged to stay nice and level as we're coming into this. Hip behind the line of the heel, hip forward in line of the heel, but always the weight on the heels. That's what we're working towards. I would tell you that it'll probably take quite some time doing the single leg deadlift with some kind of a support before you feel comfortable enough to use no support at all right? So I don't want you completely losing your balance. I'm better on one side than I am on the other side, like most people. So just, make sure that you've got something that you can use, especially for your first round, that is allowing you to not wobble too much, or else that instability becomes too great and we're at risk of tripping and falling. Okay. So that's our first activity, to create the action that involves the back of the leg, about 10 repetitions. Our next activity is going to be a full body action, and it could start, I can do it where I'm at a wall, and it is a crawling movement where opposite arm and leg are doing something. Now, a wall is not absolutely necessary, but it gives me an idea of coming with the arm upward and forward. So the opposite arm and leg, it's like I'm crawling up this wall. All right, so I'm crawling up that wall action. On the floor, the crawl can literally be a baby crawl here. We'd say a baby bear crawl, where the knees are down. And it's right now, my left hand and my right knee, they go forward at the same time. And then opposite. Now we crawl forward, but on the floor, we can also crawl backward, which you're going to find is a little more difficult, especially at first. All right, so crawling forward. Now try not to do this as my leg goes back first and then my arm. And try not to do it as, okay, my hand goes forward and then my leg. Try and do a simultaneous movement so that you're balanced diagonally on the other hand and the other knee. All right, so that crawling work, it will be cardiovascular. You will like, and it will also be a coordination change. Your brain will have to figure out what it used to do as a baby, which was very easy for babies to crawl. Of course, you talk to a baby, they say, that's difficult. So that crawling forward, crawling backward, you can be standing. You can be in this position. You could take it to more of like a downward dog positioning. And that's where you start to really feel effort. Just controlling the balancing and the legs in that position, the body in that kind of crouch. You're like, oh, yeah, cardiovascular challenge. And that's fine. That's what we want, is to have some things in our routine that are more of a higher intensity kind of action. All right. But then, after we do that, and it's hard to count. It's hard to know, do I go up and back 10 times, or is each time my right arm goes forward? It's when you're tired enough to, want to stop. You give it a certain period of time, you do a few of them, and you're like, okay, yes, enough of that. And that's great. And now we're going to be working the back of our arm, the triceps muscle, so the back of the arm. And there are many different ways to work a tricep. I'm going to start with one that is going to use either a platform like a chair or a bench, or my own body as the way that I hold it. And I'll use a weight, and it can be any weight that you feel comfortable with. The action is going to be straightening the arm. We're going to be straightening the arm in a backward position, eventually in an upward, and then eventually in a straight forward position. I'm going to do the backward, the kickback method. I could have my hand and my knee supported on a chair, but I like the full body core engagement method, whereas I hold the weight in one hand, I step that leg back, I bend the knees both, my outer elbow is going to be on the knee, and I'm going to pull this arm back until it is level to the floor. And I'll remain in this position as my start pose, and then I will slowly straighten the arm, and there's one. And then I bend only the elbow. I don't bring the arm down unless it just gets so tired of being up there. And I'm not just doing a flick, right? I'm slow. And so my whole body's working with this one. Now, as I said, if you needed to, you're like, I need a moment to rest. That's absolutely okay. But don't then just go straight arm back like that. Bring the elbow up first, and then straighten the arm. So that's a better way to work. This is working all parts of the tricep muscle, including the long head. And you will probably feel the back of your arm. And, who knows in what position you're in. You might feel like, well, that crouching position really got my core. It's like, yeah. Really got my legs, yeah. Bonus. Okay. And then when we're ready for side two, either we're kneeling hand and knee on a chair or a bench, or we're coming into the crouched position and the elbow is brought up to shoulder level, and then the arm is going backward. So one side is going to be strong on the other side. That's what being right or left hand is all about. But injuries influence it. So if you've ever been injured in your shoulder, you may find this a more complicated action. Okay, and so when you get your 10th repetition on both sides, and don't feel like your head or behind. It's very natural to have a different timing than what I'm showing you, and so just follow through with a few more than 10 if you keep running ahead of me, or just know that you don't have to do exactly 10 to do very well, but you'll finish just fine. Our back extension is next on the list, and I'm going to show a sort of like a Cobra done at the wall, my invisible wall right here. We place our arms, our forearms on the wall at about the height of the shoulder. We make a strong pull upward. The pelvis moves in the direction of the wall, and we arch the chest back a little bit. Now, at no point is my neck or my back feeling uncomfortable in this. The pulling upward is actually releasing decompression from the spine, so the pelvis can go for the wall and the chest go a little backward. And so there will be good extension work done with that, but not a lot of resistance. So I'm going to show you a resistance method done at the floor. And the posture of my arms determines how much my back works. Now, there's some things that we do constantly, and so that release of decompression of the back is created. Here I have my forearms resting, and I'm pulling. My arms are pulling me forward. Now, but my arms don't have to stay close. That would be if I want a lot of help with my back. I could take the arms out wider, and then I can pull forward. And I can take the arms out wider and more forward, and I can pull forward. So all of them are going to be pulling my chest forward, whichever position. As I pull forward, I also push down the pubic bone so that I can use my back muscles to arch my chest upward. Now, that's with my arms nice and close. No jamming in the back, but I did feel participation in my seat muscles, which is great. Arms wider means that I'm not supporting as much weight on those arms. So I pull forward, pelvis pressing down, so that the lift of the weight of my chest is more borne by the back muscles. And then when my arms are more forward as well as wide, I pull forward, push down the pelvis, I come upward. I have the option of lifting the elbows, but at no point am I pushing my chest toward my pelvis. I'm always pulling my chest away from the pelvis. And that's very tiresome to those arms, especially those tricep muscle areas that we previously worked. So again, closer, pelvis pressing down, coming upward. Wider, pelvis pressing down, coming up. This is excellent for the low back, totally excellent. Even wider. All right, so all three levels work. And if you do a lot of sitting, if you have discomfort in your back from all your sitting, then this exercise could be a daily practice for you, whatever low level, about 10 of those. Done once, 3 times a day, depending on your back issue, is great. But at no point in the exercise should we feel that this is something negative to the back. It is, it's going to make the back work, but it's no jamming. That's the thing we're trying to pull away. That we're trying to decompress that spine. We're trying to traction that spine as we're creating the engagement of those back muscles. Okay. And there's a reason that I have this follow through. The next thing we're going to do is the opposite of extending our back. We're actually going to make the back go into a crunch. Now, I've got 3 different objects. I'm going to show them to you in order of what I feel are their intensity. We've got this is the ab roller, as it's named. This is a foam roller. But right now, I'm going to show you the action done with a physio ball. If you don't have anything like that and you don't want to get on the floor, then you can use your forearms to pull the chest up and then make a crunch of the ribs tuck under the tailbone. And that's going to make the crunch. So that action's fine. But having an object like this adds a little spice to it, right? You know, a little bit of terror to it, maybe. It's fine. Now, I need to get this ball under my knees. So I'm pretty far at the end. I do want my hands on the mat because that would be nice. But when I first get onto the ball, I'm nowhere near. That's not my knee. I got to go forward, forward, forward until the ball is under my knees. And so I've got to actually push that ball back a little bit. There we go. Now the ball's under my knees. And so the first thing is to be able to stay upright. And then I pull my knees toward my chest. And then I move backward. Now, I could bring my forearms down. That's a little more stable. But it does make me go into sort of a headstand position. So you got to be ready for that to happen to you. It takes the pressure off your wrists. But any of those would work. And if you say, oh, Julie, I don't want to be at the wall. I want something a little more intense, but I don't have a physio ball today, then yes, we can do the elongation and crunch ribs, tuck under tailbone, lift up into a kneeling or a full forearm plank position. And those are excellent. They're not as much movement, so they're not going to create as much flexion in the spine. But even if you don't have any equipment, they'll work. Okay. So we're going to feel it right here. And the effect on the back is to take that extension out and give it flexion. And that's a nice partnering with the Cobra pose that we just did. So that's great. And of course, that's going to increase heart rate. And then when you're done with that, we're ready for what we're going to do with our wrists. Now, this is a dowel rod. It's about a little more than an inch dowel rod. And I put these with a little rope to create a wrist rolling device. You don't have to have anything like this. I show it to you because you may have something like it. But I'll tell you that if you simply have a hand weight of any sort, we'll roll with the hand weight if you don't have a small piece of dowel rod or even a broomstick or something like that. I'm going to hold the weight so that I've got my thumb on the bottom part, my hands around this, and I'm going to have my arms hanging downward, just relaxed. But I'm going to create, I'm just showing you, the reason I'm raising my arms is so you can see what I'm doing. I'm rolling one and it's sliding in this hand, and then I'm rolling that one and it's sliding in this hand. So it's roll, 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 roll. There we're rolling. So we're rolling and the forearms are working. Now I don't want the bar to be twisting a lot. I want the bar to stay as level to the floor as I can manage. I roll one way and then I can roll the other way. Another way to do that is to have one hand facing downward and turn the other hand so the palm is facing upward. And so that is giving you some little opposite action. That's kind of nice. And I'll switch which is doing. You know, like I said, kind of nice. Both directions if you want. And then another way to hold it is to have the hands on this outer edge and to twist like this. And the other way. And still I'm trying to keep that bar level. I'm not letting the bar twist and turn. That defeats some of the purpose of this. I'm trying to make it that the bar stays nice level. And as I said, the first one is it's like, you know, it's like I got a little Rubik's Cube. I'm just twisting and turning there, you know. There's again, do I just roll it up 10, roll it down 10? No, I do this to the point where I'm like, well, that's tiresome. So, you know, let's say I rolled it upward 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I roll it downward the same, and I do that 10 times maybe, or as many as I can before my forearms literally burst into flames. So nice isolation to forearm structure, really great for hand and wrist. Really nice. And you know, there's some work going on in the rest of the arm too, especially as we later on will be lifting this up. This is just like a 2-pound weight that I'm holding. I'm not trying to create a really heavy weight. It would be fine with my arms hanging down if this were any weight, because I'm just, you know, it's just hanging off my shoulders right there. But there we go. Nice work for the forearms. And when we've finished with that, we're going to do either we finished all that we're doing, and we're heading back to a second round of repetitions of things. So hamstring back of the leg. So we talked about, okay, I've got this this good morning or this deadlift. I'm going to hold a couple of weights in my hand. And so with my legs spread wide open, good arch to the foot, heels pressing outward, I push my hips backward, I come down. There's my weights, nice, just hanging there for my good morning. Heels pressed outward, and I push the pelvis back and I come up. So that's the good morning. Now the single leg deadlift, as I said, you can touch an object. And so, you know, you can touch hold of something on the side that that you're not going to hold the weight, and you can come backward. Okay, so that's a supported, and that's perfectly fine. But there's also a method where I just stand on one leg. These weights are going to be here. The other leg goes backward, hip moving back, and then I come back up again. So that's my awkward side I'm doing right now, the one that I have trouble losing my balance on. So this side I'm struggling with, and struggle's not bad. It just means that I have to figure out how to keep that weight perfectly balanced as I do the action. So this is going to be harder for those who are looking for that challenge, standing on my better side. And I don't want the weight to travel to my toes. All right, so there it is. That's a single leg deadlift. I'm not losing the shape of my back. I'm not lifting the side of my pelvis up. There's the hard way of doing it. My bad side touching. And there's the supported way of doing it. I'm just touching something. I've got one weight on one side of the body, but the hip is going behind the line of the heel. The weight is on my heel. The hip is going forward of the line of the ankle. The weight is on my heel. Or, as I said, the action of a wide leg. Good morning, coming down, heels pushing outward, weight still on the ball of the foot as I come forward. And so all of these produce a very similar result. They're really nice. So you choose the thing that gives you the just right amount of intensity. Okay. So there's our back leg, good morning, or single leg deadlifts. Now we're creating the crawling action. So at the wall, I can just take opposite arm and leg. And I don't have to be at a wall. I mean, I could literally do this, just create a crawl. And it's not empty. It's not empty at all because I'm lifting the leg, I'm lifting the arm. But there is more intensity to be gained from this and more cardiovascular activity to be gained coming down. And so it's always okay to do this from true kneeling baby bear crawl. Opposite arm and leg going forward, going backward. Eventually you won't find that to be as much of a challenge, so you might want to convert it to the downward dog position, where opposite arm and leg. I'm trying to lift them simultaneously. I don't want to take one and then step. That's going to defeat the purpose. Okay, so that kind of action. It's heart rate. It's going to be coordination. It's going to be challenging for those legs, for those arms. Cardiovascular system's going to get involved, and that turns it into a great thing. And like I say, you do the number of crawl forwards, crawl backwards. One way to measure it out is to find out how many times you can go if you got a mat up and down the length of the mat, and just use that as all right, I've done as many as I can do, and then try another set, just to increase your body's resilience and your control over that action. So that's a nice one. And remember, always, you're in charge of the intensity level that you're setting up for you in the new routine. You can do the same routine with an eye for lighter intensity depending on your day. You could do the routine with an eye for extreme intensity, and that might be the best way for you to work it. Depends. It really depends on you. Okay. Now, when we've done that, we want to work with the tricep, the backward. Now, our first action was we brought the arm in reverse action like so, and it's called kickback, and that is perfectly fine. But another action we could do would be to take the arm overhead. And you can use any weight you want to do a one arm action, so I can use my other arm. I'm gonna kneel simply so that I'm more on camera. And the arm is coming forward and upward. Now, if my arm was very far, if this is high as I could lift my arm, I probably wouldn't do this. I'd lay on my back instead. But if I can get the arm more overhead, then this will work. I can put my hand right here, controlling the elbow, helping myself. I go into the bend, but the work is when I go straight. So into the bend is the starting point, and I do leave the weight for my own shoulder. I actually touch it against the shoulder so that the weight is not, my arm is not twisting. I'm not going toward the other shoulder. I'm trying to stay aligned. And I'm keeping my elbow, instead of flaring off to the side, it's really near my head. And we just try for this nice, slow, rhythmic action. All right, instead of letting everything just sort of squiggle around. And as I said, but you know, if you were having trouble raising that arm fully overhead, which sometimes happens when we are injured, then you could come into a position and you know, let's say you could bring your arm partially overhead. So maybe you could do this, and although it's not exactly the same, you're more stable. This is really good to do if you have had a shoulder injury or a neck injury or other reason that this is more difficult for you to raise the arm. My other hand is still here, just sort of guiding. So you know, it's when we're working out, it's a come as you are kind of thing. We're not perfect in our alignment. We're not as strong as we're going to be. We haven't perhaps fully rehabbed everything to the point that we have perfect range of motion. So that will work, but you know, also if you can take the arm more fully upward and create that action, nice and slow and smooth, then that's good tricep. And if you say, I hate this, I didn't mind the kickback, well, then do the kickback. Oh my goodness, it's fine to have a very strong opinion about a weight training exercise. It's fine to say, no, I'll do this one, but this other one's not working, because quite frankly, sometimes a technique doesn't work as well for one person. So it's good. You can mix and match as you like, as you need. And when we've done that with the tricep, we're ready to create the extension of our back, which, as I said, always I think about, you know, when we're on the floor today, and so it's like, okay, pull upward, lean the pelvis into the wall, arch the chest backward. So if the ground is too icky, or for whatever reason you don't want to get there, you don't have to. Now, again, this Cobra action is a really good one. I do like it quite a lot. So the bring myself down very low. The chest is all the way down. So I'm not in a sphinx position. I'm all the way low. I'm going to come into a position, push down the pelvis, pull forward. So this is the narrow line or low Cobra position. My arms come out wider, giving me less support. And so I call this the mid Cobra position. Or the arms are going to be more forward and wide, and I call this one the high Cobra position. Always pushing the pelvis down. Chest is being pulled forward. I'm never pushing chest toward pelvis. I'm always pulling chest away from pelvis. But if you are looking for even more, you have another option, and that is to take a physio ball, if you have a physio ball, and kneel in a comfortable way. Your feet need to touch against a support. This is a couch. It could be a wall. The ball is pulled inward. You round down over the ball. You might keep your hands very low and pull forward and lift the chest up, a little bit of extension. Or you can have your hands higher on the ball and you come into more of an extension. You get that nice flexion before you do it again. You never do this with your hands not on the ball, because the ball can shoot out from in front of you like a marble, and that's not fun to fall face first. So, speak from experience. So there you go. Those. Now, remember, we don't want jamming, and jamming means either there's not enough elongation of the spine, because you could pull more, or you're just taking too much. You're going too far into your extension. You might be pulling forward fine, but your body is not ready, and maybe you're just going beyond factory recommendations right there with the body, or maybe it's just something that you've got to develop your strength. So we don't want the collapse of the joint structure. That's why we create a constant pull forward. And so there we go. There's our back extension. Now, our follow through is the crunch. And in the first round of things, I did use the physio ball for the crunch, but now I'm going to use this lovely roller, foam roller. This is about a 6-inch one. There are some smaller ones I find for me with my big long feet. Those smaller ones make my toes drag, so I get this nice one here. There are some bigger ones. Those are fun too. And there's two basic methods for it. The one that's more stable, if I need something to be more stable, is when I start things off with this at my ankle region, and I'm sort of crouched and kneeling down, and I'm going to just have my arms in this nice little hands together, elbows shoulder distance wide. And then I'm going to push backward until I'm in a forearm plank, and then I'm going to bring forward. And the reason this is easier is because I come forward and I'm in a resting position with my knees down each time. So that's like, okay, that's tough, but I get to come back and I get to rest. And it's like, that's nice. The harder one is when I start off with this roller under my knees, and I stretch myself all the way out to the forearm plank. And then I pull towards me and I come back out. So there's no rest for the weary. So they're all good. The foam rollers are really nice. You'll find that they will make you make noises. And you will know that you have abdominal muscles. And you will also, with that, have a chance to create another high-intensity interval. It's okay to pause in between. It's okay to switch between techniques. You say, no, I want to do one now. It's easier. We're at the rest point because I did all the other ones. That's fine. You finish out, or you say, no, I'm coming off this and go over the wall. I don't blame you. Or maybe you would really prefer the physio ball, or maybe you don't have a foam roller today. It's okay. These are fairly easy to come by, relatively inexpensive, good for a number of interesting things that we can do. So, reasonable to have around the house. So that's our crunch. 10 of those, or close to that 10, is great for us. And then we work with the wrist again. And so I used a weight the first time. I'll show you with this this little roller action. And instead of having my arms hanging down here, I've now got a bend in them. And so I can roll, and again, that bar is staying level. Rolling one way, rolling the other way. And keep that bar nice and level. So just, decide how many I'm going to do in one direction, and then how many in the other direction, and I'm going to count that as 1, right? And then do 10 of those, whatever it is, whatever number you make up out of it. Now, the hands don't have to be like this. I can have one palm up and one palm down, and I find that to be a lovely challenge. I still take that in 2 different directions, and then I change which hand is which. And that's just challenging my brain. I got to keep this bar level. I keep telling myself that bar level. The outside, this is a small enough bar that I can take my hands to the outside edge, and then I start to make this kind of a twist. Different action. And as I said, my forearms are now parallel to the floor. Now, if you say, I don't have a bar, if you're holding a weight, there's actually going to be some bicep work done with this bar of that weight. I'm doing my best to keep it nice and level, like changing actions. I'm trying to get as much range of motion, as much movement, whichever direction I'm going, as much movement as possible. So I was going pretty fast there, and you can go slower and just really focus on that. That's the end of my range of movement there. And of course, palm up, palm down. the other side. I really like this because it is a more realistic use in life kind of thing. There's all sorts of things I need to twist. So having something that's focusing me on all that twisting is really nice. Hands and the forearms are acted by result. There we are, and that's our second round. So the third round, we are probably coming into it with a body that's probably getting tired, if not already tired. And the choices we make might be affected by that. We might go more intense or we might go less intense. Pretty much though, I've gone through for most things the thing that we work on. And so you still have options available with or without weights. I'm going to use some weights again. The good morning set, so the legs are really wide, the weight's on the heels, the hips get pushed backward, keep the weight on the ball of the foot. Even I come to the stretch point of my hamstrings, I push the heels out and I push forward. Now, sometimes I go into things and, I'm just reaching the end of my hamstrings, but it would be okay if the end of my hamstrings is right here and I was coming back again. And so, going down deeper will eventually happen. This is a good stretch for the hamstring as well as a strengthener. The one where I use a single weight, the weight is on the side of the leg that I'm supporting me. My weight's on my heel. I'm touching the something. It could be the wall, could be the chair. All right. This arm is just there. It's just hanging. I'm not doing anything particularly with it. Okay, so that side and then the other side. So the weight on the hold the weight side, the leg I'm standing on. The back leg could be bent. It's okay. It doesn't have to be stretched out, but you'll find it probably helps a little bit being stretched out, especially if you decide to do, I'm going to just balance on my own method. And so you just sort of concentrate and you don't go any lower. The weight's got to stay on the heel. And you could switch legs each and every time if you wanted, or just do a whole bunch on one side and a whole bunch on the other side. So that's again, I've got a challenge side with this side. There we go. So I have to pay more attention on my challenge side than I do on my side that's the, the show-off side. It's like, oh, yeah, I got it all. It's like the sibling that's good versus the one that needs a little more support. But you go slow so that you can find the nuances of things, what's your body doing, and if doing this coming down with no support and two weights is too much, then just switch to a single leg action. That'll work. Or, if you're really tired, switch to the good mornings. That'll work. That will really work. And that is good. That is good. Next up is the crawl. Wall crawl. Oh, yeah, wall crawl. Pretend you're climbing up the wall. The baby bear crawl. Probably getting good at this by now. Or the full-grown bear crawl. So remember, it's that arm and leg lifting simultaneously. Don't try and go too far forward. And you'll get tired of this in time. You'll be like, oh, my heart rate, yeah, my legs. Yeah, that's a tough one. But I love it because not only does it give us a good strong muscle action and core engagement and cardiovascular engagement, but it's balance and coordination. It's basic. It's the basics that we learned as babies, that crawling method. It'll all coming back, recovered memories of crawling. And then finally, our triceps. And it's like, oh, yay. Finally, our triceps. Because you have the opportunity to lay on your back. Now you can still do this as the kickback method. You can do this as the overhead method. But I'm going to talk about, this one goes by the name of the French curl. And what it is you stick the arms straight up. And so now the arms are forward to the chest. And I've got two weights. I'm just going to bring the ends of the weights together. I'm going to keep my elbows sticking up. And I'm going to bend my elbows, letting the weights come toward my hairline. Then I'm going to slowly straighten it back up again. Now this could be done with a single weight. And you just hold it like it's a bar. And then you bend. And you straighten, and that's perfectly fine too. But you don't let the arms sway or anything, and you're just trying to just keep those elbows in place as you're creating the action. The knees are bent. That gives you a lot of release to the low back and the neck, because when the legs are stretched out straight, it's going to emphasize an increased extension in the back, which is going to reduce some of the extension in the neck. And if you have a moment to think about it, your chin should just be pointed straight up there. You don't need to have your chin tucked down and your neck flattened. So this is a really good one. 3 different positions of our arms in the tricep work today was the option that you had. You could have done all 3, or you could have just chosen one of them because you liked it better or it just worked better for you. And that's always valid. If it works better, use that one. All right, and then we got choices to make for back extensions. So, how do we want to do that? Do we want to stand and to do this at the wall? Pull upward, to lean the pelvis, to pull the chest back. That's the one where I feel more engagement in this area above the low back, but I also feel a slight tendency toward the body being jammed a little bit, so don't go too far back in that one. The series of Cobras coming down from the face down, pelvis pressing, chest pulling forward with either a narrow arm or a wider arm, or same width but more forward, allowing me then to pick up the elbows, but I'm still pulling forward. All of those I'm pulling forward. All of those my pelvis is pressing down. Or the physio ball one, which is it's most intense, and yet because of the way the ball is working, so I've got that wall or object behind me that I can touch with my feet. Pulling the ball inward, folding forward. My hands are low on the ball, which allows me to create a little bit more of a tractioning position. I'm not lifting up as high. That worked fine. Hands higher on the ball. I can come up more, and that might be helpful. The hands could be at the side of the ball. So I am feeling more of a challenge with this one, because technically I'm coming from a flexed position, not a neutral position like at the floor, but from a flexed position, and my back muscles are being used for a longer period of time. And so they're long when they begin, and they create a stronger reaction when we contract them that way. So that is nice. Physio ball. But again, if you didn't have a physio ball, there are ways that you can work with that. And the follow through is the crunch, either at the wall or with the physio ball or with that foam roller, or now the crunch being done with the ab roller. And these are a little bit misunderstood, because I think they're so easy to roll that we think that's the work of them, that when I take my arms out like this and come backward, that's the work, and that is not the work. The work is actually done when the movement happens at the pelvis. So what I do with my arms is I stay directly over, and from this tabletop position, my pelvis goes forward, and then I pull back. So my pelvis goes forward, around, I crunch, almost like sort of a cat-cow. So forward, and crunch. Now, eventually we might be able to stretch a little more outward, but if that pelvis isn't forward, then there's really no benefit to the rectus abdominis. You know, so if you're doing this, you might get a little bit of a stretch, but you're not going to get engagement to create the action. So you got to stay with shoulders over this device and bring the pelvis forward and then make a more of an exaggerated rounded back. Oh, it is the harder of the three. And if you get it just right, it will feel wonderful and quite possibly create quite a lot of sensation as a follow through the next few days. You'll be like, oh my gosh, what happened there? And then we're ready for the wrist roll. Now, the wrist roll can be done with a bar or something like that. I got this nice little 2-pound weight. We started off with the wrist roll with the arms right here. We then bent the elbow like that. And the final one is the more challenging because we're having the arms straight out. So we're just going down and going up. All right. Or my hands are on the side, going down, going up. Or I've got one palm up, one palm down. All sorts of combinations. The other side. And, you know, like I say, it could be done with no weight, especially when your arms are out here, because the weight of the arms are already there. I've got this lovely dowel rod. And I could weight on the end of that little string there. Doesn't take much. Does not take much. And all of a sudden, everything about your body is working through this. Really good. Really good. So like I say, a lot of these things that we're doing today, it's like, how do I count it? Well, figure out what you feel is consider the correct repetition and do it to the point that you're feeling that there's actually an effect. That's great, and that would be your stopping point. And when you've reached the stopping point with things, because you might want to finish up a couple of things or have some fourths instead of some thirds on things, but eventually you want your warm down, and so that could be that you begin to just turn those shoulders. It's a nice way to twist without coming down on the ground. You can do the reach across the body. That's nice, either with the hands there or when the elbows are resting on the knee, you'll actually get a little bit deeper with a twist. But I love, after a workout, just coming into a reclined position. Probably start with my shoulder stretch. So I take the leg in, I hold my hand to the knee, I move away, and the stretch is in the neck. It's great. And then the other one, hold and stretch is in the neck, and that is great. Or loop, and both legs move, and the stretch is in the neck and the shoulders. It's great. Lovely. Hamstrings, we worked our hamstrings, so hands in the back of my leg. Now, some people, their straightening the leg is not very much. I don't want you to move the leg away from the chest in order to get the leg straighter. For other people, the straightness of the leg is more possible before they begin to feel the hamstring stretch. It's okay. You know, we're just finding where we are. We're inviting the muscles to not stay in their shortened state. And that's great. There's probably a lot of things that you know to do that make your body happy, but don't forget to do a little bit of twisting. I can have my feet down and do the twist from side to side. I can have my feet uplifted and do the twist from side to side. And here's one for low back tender people. The feet are down. You can either have the feet close and go side to side, or you can actually cross one leg over the other, going side to side. Even with the feet down, that's going to create a little bit more of a pull, a little more of a stretch potential. So be cautious of that, but it is a way to get more of a twist without having the full weight of your legs on your body. So binding poses are known to create greater stretch points, greater intensity stretch points. Then you may just want to lie flat, take some deep breaths. Follow through is warming down. Follow through is eat your protein, 30 grams within the hour. Follow through is get your sleep, 7 to 10 hours. Don't do intense things every day. Meter it out. Intense one day, less intense. Or stretch or walk or something the other day in between. You've done excellent work. Great job. Thanks for being here.